My office is very cool.
Oh, you're off, oh.
See, I think you should just have it in the hallway.
So half.
Back there's really
I mean,
cool.
luckily you got wide hallways, you could do that.
I was actually cooling off.
All right, let's call this work session to order. First item of business, if someone could make a motion that we let Mr. Wilburn attend via remote.
I'll move that we let Mr. Wilbur attend via remote, for medical reasons, health reasons.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor? All right. Get Mark on the phone here real quick. Can we call him on that, Terry, or is that not work? Is
I
that?
don't know about dialing out on that because that's going through the network. I don't know if that's a phone line.
I always call him that.
Okay.
So I would think if we're gonna get him, we'll get him on this one.
Got it.
I couldn't.
I'll let him know we're coming.
Be careful there.
Hello.
Good morning, sunshine.
Hey, good morning.
How are you?
About to do this.
You sure you want to participate with us today or go back to bed?
I'll participate.
Okay. All right, you're on speaker.
Okay.
Morning, Mark. Hope you feel better.
Yeah, okay. I hope so too.
All right, looks like the first item on the agenda is athletic trainer at Nares High School.
I guess we've got no,
I've heard nothing, from Carillion. When I reached out, got the link, that's all I heard from the link. They didn't say that they had any interest expressed yet. They did ask if we have know a name and send it to them so they can kind of keep an eye out for the name.
well, I think, I was talking to some folks, the people that are gonna be interested in doing that are already school employees somewhere else on part of VRS. And I got me, after I talked to you, I reached out to a trainer in Botetourt County that I knew and just asked, what the deal is because, this thing's been posted 20 months. So what's happening there, Montgomery County's gone, Botetourt County hires their own trainers, brings them in as teachers and they teach class and one period, 11-month contract. VRS benefits everything on the teacher salary scale. Montgomery County's doing that, City of Radford's doing that, Brandon City's doing that, and Franklin County's doing that, of course Botetourt's doing that, and I don't know about the other one, that's one sheet off the top of her head. Yeah, Roanoke County contracts with Carillion, except they've got the one at Glimbers, a school employee. It's just getting to the point, we've got, I look, we got Chucky's stepson there that's, he hurt tore his ACL in the state track meet, and we don't have anybody to rehab him there. It's bad. So, we need to do something. And I don't know, what do we pay with Carillion?
I just pulled the agreement. I want to say it's, I want to say it was 48 and 45. That could be low. I think that could be low.
I think it's not that much different if we brought them in on our scale, benefits and
Put them on.
Well, and it's, I don't know if y'all remember, I had talked to Mr.
I
Husband
would
about
assume
that.
they have a
while
master's,
back.
so that they'd have some work experience as a trainer, so you're gonna bring in with some experience, and the starting salary, we've increased it to $2,200, but with the masters, plus you're gonna add another month for an 11-month contract, it's gonna be 50 some, I would think.
We're right there.
And then, as you're correct, it would be a VRS, because you would hire them in so that they can teach, whether it's a block or whether it's 2 periods, and then they'd be there the rest of the evening.
Well, I think
I don't
that's,
think we got any choice. I mean, we can't go another year. I mean, because it's getting to the point, if we don't, then we're gonna have to split up the road. They're gonna have to do, because it's not fair. And it's hard for any school to be without a trainer. I mean, now, this day and time, you just can't.
well, you can do it if you've never had a trainer, but once you have a trainer,
Oh, it's hard to go back.
you can't, you know. And it, you don't realize it until, I was talking to a coach that left this system many years ago and then went to a place that had a trainer back then, and he just remembers the culture shock of that, and just can't imagine anybody going back to it. Of course, yeah, like I said, that's just, so,
And I'm sure our kids have probably used a trainer at one point. I mean, I know mine did. I'm sure yours, Stevie, you and Philip, I'd say yours.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, even her, she's spread thin, just
Right.
trying to cover
Like,
the facility at Giles. And we'll have times when there's an issue come up, and they gotta get on the radio and find out where she is, and she's gotta come from the top field down, and,
especially, I'm sure, during fall.
Yeah.
Fall.
yeah, that was,
But, you know, it got to where last year, we were hoping that when you traveled, they had a trainer, but everybody else was in the same boat. Nobody had trainers, so I think this is what, it's forced them into doing this.
I think what I'm gathering from talking to folks, that the Corellian positions don't offer quite, I mean, it's not, you know, it's a full-time, you know, not saying that 11-month isn't full-time, but there's an attractiveness to that. There is a, but, you know, I think the schools offer a better benefit package. I've heard before the Korea from the Korea employees that, yeah, their benefits, their healthcare benefits aren't as good as.
And I don't know what their retirement, I don't know anything about that, but whoever would be hired, if we went this direction, they would be, it'll go into BRS. They'd have to be certified, get a license through us, and we'd have to go through the process.
so if we, so do we lose that money from Corellian?
We don't have that, but this.
Yeah, we took that on already.
I mean, we're paying all of it now, It's-
That ended, what, last year or 2 years ago?
That ended, this was the first
Okay.
year. We got a little bit last year, not much, but we're done.
What's the upside of having them be in charge of finding somebody?
You're gonna save a little bit of money, you know, but the problem is, they're not finding anybody. We're
Right.
seeing what the market rate is, and, they've got the liability, the supervision, but again, our employees are generally covered by sovereign immunity. Vacor will cover us, on it. I mean, it actually, you know, the other thing, I think most of these places end up, you know, I guess they'd be under Kevin, maybe. They have maybe not, I don't know, it's almost, which actually, to me, it sounds like it could be something of benefit. It's an athletic training
It's an athletic training program.
class, so they
The
get,
way I've seen it is, it's the person that teaches that block of those last 2 periods, they're teaching what an athletic training, whatever you want to title it, to students, so that they can see, maybe that's a career that they're interested in, and you can start moving kids in that direction.
well,
But that's what it is. And the kids then are helping with getting the water and getting the ice together and that sort of stuff for practices and games and that type of thing.
and I think, you know, you look at it, I think that would be benefit, because, you know, there's a lot of opportunity for a kid that wants to be involved in college athletics, that's not an athlete. If they've got that aptitude and want to do it, I mean, you know, they can get a scholarship for that, or at least get paid while they're in school.
The only thing I would think is we would need to, I would need to reach out to Corellian and let them know that we are going in a different direction for Narrows High School. Just to provide them notification.
I mean, it's a courtesy, but we've clearly given them 20 months to try to help us out. We're not displeased with what they're doing in general for us and the community, but we have to
We need to
take
try
a,
to get covered what we can get.
Their trainers have been, I mean, the ones we've had have been been great, and even, you know, Katie, the substitute that comes in, she's excellent. I mean, it's just losing, you know, like Katie came Tuesday, I think Tuesday, and did first round of concussion baseline testing, but she's not coming back till like Thursday next week or sometime next week to finish up, so it's stuff like that. They're losing on the day-to-day.
Something to keep in mind, if the new trainer narrows, gets a little sweeter deal, whether it's benefits or VRS or insurance, and one of Giles decides that she might want to do that same thing, then Carillion might lose her too.
And I think ultimately, if we want good people, and I think.
I mean, I think we've got to let her
Yeah.
know that that's,
I think it's fair.
that's available, and if she wants to stay with the Carillion setup, she's welcome to, but I think to be above board, we just need to say that,
This is what we're,
Yeah.
this is the direction we're going
yeah,
in.
and then that way we don't have to
Right.
try to figure out what to do about it later. So, I mean, I think that's the fair way to just be upfront with her and Carillion and just tell them what we're trying to do. From a budget standpoint, is that enough impact that we need to worry about trying to put?
There'll be some, I'll need to look, see how much it is. It will be some because they'll, pick up benefits, pick up VRS.
Well, can you do this, Terry? Can you find out if the Naras position's added, what's the budget impact of that? And then if the Giles trainer decides to go that route too, what's the additional impact of budget for that? Is that
Yeah, because I think.
reasonable?
I
Okay.
mean, I think you're looking at, what, 126% of whatever the start pay is.
Yeah.
We didn't use that money last year.
I
We
mean,
have it set aside.
That was part carryover, would have been part carryover.
Okay.
We used it for Giles High School, but whatever we didn't use for the substitute,
Okay.
filling in there is what
Okay.
rolled into carryover.
and I'm okay, since we're already behind the 8 ball, if you want to get us that information in an email, Terry, and let us take a look at it, we can give you the green light to advertise after he's talked to Carillion and try to get that out as quick as we can, instead of waiting for the board meeting and that's, I don't know how that position is, if it's cyclical, if people have already taken jobs, or if there's always somebody looking. I mean, I don't know how that works. We'll just have to see.
The VRS and stuff will help.
Are we gonna, what's the requirement we're gonna have on that position? You're gonna say they have to be full?
I'll have to talk to Jason to see what the license will need to be through DOE to be able to teach. That I don't know off the top of my head. We'll have to research that to see, because they would have to, if they're gonna teach, they're gonna have to have a teaching certification, be able to get a teaching certification.
Yeah. Gotta be through CTE
I
somehow.
would think, I know there's a way to do it, I just don't know what that is.
So the Darius position would bring another class as well? Is that what we're talking about doing, adding a?
Eventually, it's what.
Eventually, you're gonna, I don't know that you're gonna be able to get one first semester, because we're here 2 weeks out starting school.
Yeah.
I don't know, now, first semester you may not, second semester might.
It would almost be like a weightlift. You'd be like your weightlifting classes with the athletes. This would be, you know, what we've traditionally called managers. I think you got an opportunity. Just they got an opportunity to learn a skill that you know, when they go out to college, that maybe if they want to be a manager in college, they can go that direction. If they want to be an athletic trainer, they can go that direction.
And I'm sure the schools have enough things going on in school they could use it somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, you could,
It's a teaching
some of them,
degree.
you know,
We just need to figure
we're
it
short on some. They just maybe today on each person's classroom.
So are we gonna ask the Giles trainer to teach too?
I mean, that probably, that, to me, that is,
we're gonna ask the Giles trainer to teach as well.
I think,
Currently, the Giles trainer is not our employee.
yeah, I
Right.
think if that changes,
We're reimbursing Brilliant now. If it changes, then I would think, then yes, that's,
And that's something she might wanna,
Yeah.
decide. That would be,
and I also need to look back at the agreement we have with Brilliant, because I don't remember what it says, and if she is interested, I don't
She
know
may
if she
be.
could come to us.
And I
don't know
think we
that.
need to be careful how we approach that, because I don't want her to think that we're telling her that this is something we expect, when that was never the intent, and she came on
you
board.
also probably need would tell her that she needs to look at her contract and maybe talk to legal. Healthcare is the world's worst for putting guns against competition in there.
And I probably need to stop us right here. I don't know how much we should be talking about
We're getting close to talking
an
about.
employee's
right.
situation when she hasn't even been broached. That would be terrifying to hear about that, so let's just leave it at,
Let me.
so you find out the
Let me
information.
find out the budget impact, if we just do Nares High School. Let me find out about the certification, what that would look like, what we can do to get them
Yeah.
licensed to be able to teach. And then I'll get that information to you as quickly as we can put that together.
I mean, just the optics of adding a program and opportunity at one high school and not the other, we gotta think about that too.
I understand.
And I absolutely, everybody in this room needs to know that that's not coming from me not wanting a trainer at Nares High School. We absolutely need one. But this board will absolutely get questioned at some point if we add a program at one high school and not the other. So that is not confrontational in any way, but something we need to just keep in mind.
I
That's all.
think so, and I think if we're asked right now, I think assuming that we're gonna stay with Korean, I think it's a function of
If that's the only way we can do it, then that's why we're doing it that way.
I mean, I think it's clear the primary purpose of both of those positions are to provide training services to our athletes. The teaching part would be secondary. And to fill that and get good people, we just got different positions.
You know, on the flip side, if the compensation is similar, then they could ask the same question, well, then why wouldn't we have somebody do that extra? So I think there's some give and take in that conversation. And our Giles trainer is super appreciated, and we are in no way wanting to do anything different. For those listening, we are just trying to find out a way to get a trainer at Narrows. So if she's listening, we're very happy with what she's doing, just like she is. Good grief. Okay.
Fun day.
Yeah, so you're gonna get something back to us, Terry, and then we'll try to get you the green light to definitely call Carillion and just let them know our angle. Everybody good with that? Okay.
Okay. We'll work on that and get that to you as quickly as we can.
Next item is, go ahead.
Sorry, just an update on facility items. I mean, we just wanted to make sure that you knew what was going on with a lot of different things that we've been talking about. And I'm not gonna go in necessarily any particular order any more than when I thought of them and wrote them down. Macy, so you know, literary fund, for the HVAC roof renovation project there. We did get the what we needed to get to DOE sent off. We took my letter to ZMM on July 10th. They sent it off July 10th and DOE received it on July 11th. July 19th, we got acknowledgement back from DOE that they received the plans and specs, etc. We anticipated that it would be on the July 25th, 26th state board meeting. It did not get on the state board meeting for July. DOE did not have the opportunity to completely review the specs and the plans. They did not have the time, so that it did not get on the agenda. They anticipate, based on what we've heard, it's gonna be September when it gets on the state board agenda. They thought it might be August, but I think what we've heard recently was it's September. It's a timing thing. So as soon, and we can't put Macy out for bid until that gets, we don't wanna affect us getting the Levere Fund, put it out, it'd be nice to put Macy out there, but I don't wanna take the risk, and I know you don't want us to take the chance of jeopardizing that funding.
So that, it clearly states somewhere in their guidelines that we have to wait
Randy.
to advertise?
Randy has talked to him, yes.
So they can't give us a letter because it's their problem that they didn't get it on their board meeting?
Randy has talked to him.
I mean, that's pretty unreasonable. It's government. I know, but when you bid something, you're not signing a contract, you're not spending the money. You're simply putting it on the street so that you can get contractors to start putting their pricing together.
It goes against the language of the literary loan details. He's checked with Ballinger and, Kent
Ken
Dickey.
Dickey.
So,
Or should we go?
Okay,
so it looks like probably 1st of October before we get it out of the street and talking about December.
I anticipate September 25th is the third Thursday. I anticipate that time, in that time period when they'll have their state board meeting.
those with all the gold make all the rules, so we will. Okay.
That's Macy. Giles High School, stadium lights, you've asked us about that. That went out to bid. And they were due back yesterday. They were opened yesterday. They only received one. We only received one response. Sent it off to CMM, let them look at it. The cost to replace the lighting at Giles High School was $120,000.
How much did you say
$120,000
for stadium lights?
for the stadium lights. There also was an add-on for what was the wireless, turn them on, turn them off, for an additional $15,000.
That's an awful lot.
I don't think we can turn a switch on for $15,000.
As well, but we asked us to get a quite idea what the price was.
So you knock that 15 off the 120?
That $120 is the cost of the light, the add-on was an additional $15,000.
So that component to simply talk to your cell phone is $15,000?
Actually, I take that back, it's $15,500.
Hey, the five, hey, if it was the five, I'd be good with it.
They knocked that down.
We were right there, Dr. Argas. That's good now.
It's still,
Provide wireless controls to switch all fixtures mounted on all 4 stadium towers from one central location in the press box.
even at 135.5,
So the 120, at 120 for just replacing the lights.
Yeah, but they're gonna have a central location on the light stanchion that will,
no. You have to go,
You gotta go to each pole.
you gotta go to each pole.
Well, you gotta go to each pole to turn them on?
Each pole each side. You have to go each
yeah,
side.
that's just what it is. I mean, $15,000.
On each end of the field, one side of the field.
I think it's, yeah,
I don't know
Home
exactly where it's
home
gonna be.
visitors.
Man, it's a 15% cost increase to do that.
If it was at my house, I'd say I'll go flip a switch. I'll
Yeah.
walk from A to Z.
Do we have a central location for the lights and theirs?
It's on one, both sides are operated by a key switch on,
That's okay. Press-
no, it's on
the
the,
bottom,
you gotta go, it's where the gate is.
down there for handicap parking.
Yeah.
Is that the box behind it?
Yeah, some people don't know how to operate it.
So we went with
Then
the,
shut off.
we went with the wireless option so we wouldn't have to trench. I mean, they can trench around and do a central location probably, but I call
Who's they, the
the
contractor?
contractor, yeah.
They can't run it from down the road? I mean, they can't go outside the fence?
Depends on where your, setbacks, property lines, things like that are, so.
I'm saying the thing we're worried about is the track. I mean, but you run from one pole, you run down that fence line, get to the road,
Now, here's, I mean, I'm not gonna swear to any of this, but I think it's probably gonna be as much the trenching as it is the box, so. By the time you,
Well, if you'll give me $50,000, I'll rent a trencher
I'll be with you.
and
We'll split it.
we'll put the conduit in the ground for $15,000. That is, when you walk behind a trencher for that type of wire. I mean, I know we're stuck in a business of them having so much work that they just, they give us that number,
I
but
thought the 120,000 was a good number. That's
I think it's a great
number. That's a lot better.
That's a far cry from 235 where we started.
yes, it is.
That's a good number for the light.
Now,
What I would ask of you, Dr. Brown, is go to that contractor and see if they can work with us to get a central on-off location. I don't want to tell them that that number's not good and we don't want to pull the trigger, but is it reasonable just to ask them if they can
I
give
think
us some
so.
kind of a general number to get a single on-off spot?
And the other thing we might want to look at is to see if I guarantee that there's been some company that comes out there and has figured out an aftermarket way to wirelessly connect these things for people that aren't doing a new one. And if you can find one for a third of the price, or, like I said, the 15.
it might be that, I think the highest priority is getting the lights fixed.
Yeah.
Because right now, we're saying little silent prayers that we're gonna be
No,
okay for this
And we
season.
can work on that.
100%. And if we can,
My feeling on that is to move forward with the lights, because there is a 9-week lead time, scheduling with contractors, things like that. I think we move forward with that, and then we, deal with other things.
pull the trigger on the lights,
Yeah.
and if
I
we can
think we have
find
some
a
When you
wireless.
estimating that was gonna get done, I mean, did they give you any kind of,
That 9-week lead time at least.
We gave them a 180-day timeframe because we wanted to see where we're at with the scheduling. If we can get with them and get it scheduled, it's like it's a 3-week process. But we don't know until we sit down with the contractor and come up with a schedule. It might be after the season, it might be that they can work us in during the bye time and their 2 away games. So we put a window in there to kind of work with. I have asked ZMM to reach out to the contractor and make sure they're providing the lights that we specified. I have not received an answer on that. I think unless you disagree or Dr. Artemis disagrees, I think we at least enter into agreement with them for the base bid and work out the other. And come back and say, okay, obviously 15,000 is not gonna work. What would it cost as an add-on to come in and trench around, not disturb the field, not disturb the track, to where we can at least turn it on and off at one location and see if they can give us a price on that. But get the actual physical units ordered.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're okay moving?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you guys in your discussions find that there's a innovative way for us to do the remote, then we do it at both high schools. If there's an aftermarket way to do that, I know that there's a lot of folks, I don't know if Kelly's talked about it, but a lot of the places they can, no matter where the athletic director is on the property, they can operate the lights without having to physically be there. I mean, is that a requirement? It's not.
It'd be nice. I mean, the good thing about Nares is because it's off the high school is if you're going there, you're going through that gate and it's right there where the handicap parking is.
But if there's an aftermarket like you were talking about that we could just keep in the back of your mind, that would be something we do at both locations.
I would be happy if we could just do it the same as Ayers and have one central location on the visitor side, on the press box side, for Steve or whoever could.
I would like to get that. I can, yeah, you know, like I said, it's just the 15,000 shocks the conscience.
I can talk to, yeah.
That use the legal term for court cases.
The comment from somebody was, we buy a new gator and make them out of there.
I mean, that's the context you gotta put it in.
Yeah.
You can buy a side-by-side and park it there and just,
Use that for everything else.
Go back and forth.
and that's the risk of doing adders. When I put the bid documents together, and Philip knows this too, if that would've just been in the overall price, we'd have never known. But
Well, I
because it
think
broke
you should
out, well, no, I'm glad we did.
I think you should.
I'm glad we did, cause that's,
You know, being transparent, I think y'all should know where the costs are.
that's crazy. I don't know. If he'd have known he was the only bidder, he would've, or he or she, but
It's
who was the only bidder? Or are we allowed to say until we finish contract
I don't
I
negotiations?
think we need to finish the process, but we haven't brought it to you to.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't.
no, that's fine. I was curious.
well, what if you need you know, if you need us to, even if we need to vote right now to approve it and get this thing underway.
Well, I'm assuming based on what I've heard, we got consensus of the board to move on with the lighting for the football field.
Yeah, it's in the budget.
We'll
right?
contact ZMM, tell them to move on and move forward with it. And Mike will do some investigation on trying to figure out how to make sure see if there's a way to get one,
See where our
which,
alternatives
what the alternatives are, what the options are. Nares Elementary Middle School, with their HVAC replacement, the last 5 water source heat pumps have been delivered and arrived at the Southern Air Warehouse. That came in last Thursday, I think it was. But at this point in time, I don't recall seeing a date and time for when those are going to be installed. So we're still waiting to see when there's going to be installed.
I think also the last email I saw was they were shipped and they're missing some hose connection packages. So they're trying to get with the manufacturer and the shipper. The manufacturer's saying they were shipped. Southern Air was saying they're not, so they're trying to work that out. So they have the units, they just need the hose packages to go with it.
About duct cleaning.
So duct cleaning starts next week. They will be on site Tuesday to bring in equipment and do walkthroughs and setup. They will start Wednesday morning, Thursday, and Friday. They have Saturday set aside as an extra day in case they need it. My stipulation was they needed to be done before we had teachers come back on the 14th. So we should be, according to the company, we should be good to go by the time the teachers come in on the 14th.
Do they have the ability to do a pre-cleaning inspection? And document what condition those ducts are in?
They're supposed to take pictures before and after. Now,
Let's make sure it's not supposed to. Let's make sure they do.
I just don't, I guess when I say supposed to, I don't know what the number of pictures are.
Right.
The agreement states that they're supposed to offer us before and after. I can look through that.
I say that because this is an enormous amount of money.
So it says.
And I want to know if we actually get the bang for it or not. And
We better work.
I don't know about the rest of the board members, but this one's kind of sticking in my craw a little bit.
Well,
If it would have been part of the original project, then I get it. We would have certainly just seen that cost and moved on with it. But,
We've learned a lesson to make sure when the next ones are done.
that's exactly right.
so, okay, Giles, errors in Macy. We have instructed, we have verified, if we've asked once, we've asked 5 times, and they're included in those packages. Now, one of the ways to look at this is, in a positive light, if it had been included, we would have paid a markup of between 15 and 20% on the price. With us doing it, we saved a little money going this way, but yes, it does, I think to use a term Mr. Buckland used, shock the conscience at $48,625. Mr. Steele, so in the summary of specifications that the company provided, a report and some before and after pictures will be taken and included in a NADCA ACR 2021 completion report of the duct cleaning project when completed.
Okay.
They were the experts, they should have said up front, you need to make sure the ducts are cleaned.
Well, when I talked to our county expert, and they have the same concern that if we're hiring a consulting firm to look at
Everything.
a project, then I get an excuse back through him that their answer was, well, we did exactly what you told us to do. I'm not, that's not how
But
our business
the duct
works.
work is part of the AC.
It is, so,
Big part of it.
but their argument is that we asked them to just flat out replace what was there. And I get that we didn't ask for more, we didn't ask for additional technology, but if you're getting ready to put something back and you know that during startup, the duct work could impact you being able to sign off as the engineer, you should think about that.
I agree.
And then you replace in kind and then it doesn't work.
It's not like it's a couple thousand.
No, and then your answer is, well, maybe you should clean the ducts. I don't know. Just spend 48 and see if that works.
Yeah.
That's not this business.
And what's the status of that? The humidity monitoring?
They're currently, TNL is attempting to investigate that. They're trying a few things. We've got humidity monitors in the rooms. They're looking at some other pieces of equipment, so they're trying to pinpoint it. So they are trying to see what is going on. They have proposed for the negative pressure issue. They've proposed to put a louver in one of the, or actually both, I think it's both of the doors right there near the main office that has such a negative pressure issue going on. I don't know that that's affecting the humidity issues, but it is affecting the balancing, which could play a little bit on the humidity issues. I think they have, my personal gut feeling is, they have a piece of equipment that's not functioning correctly, or they need to look at one of the outside units, pulling the outside air in. It could be something with that. I don't want to go on record and say what it is because I'm not an HVAC expert, but.
So did we have negative pressure, balance, and humidity problems before we put the new units in?
I was told, what I've been able to ascertain through just conversations about the past is there was a negative pressure issue before, but not this bad. I'm telling you, I was down there the other day when the tab guys were there, the testing and balancing guys, and that, the one mechanical room, Mr. Steele, when you open the door and you stand in it, it's a good 20 to 30 mile an hour.
And somehow get their fingers broke.
Now, the other concerning thing when I was down there, was, I believe, part of the balancing issue was where the connection of the duct to the air filter to the main unit, connection was. There was a 1-inch gap between the duct and the air filter that nobody caught. And it was on several units. So when you're trying to balance that, that's gonna throw your numbers completely off. So, I don't know where it was missed or who missed it, but I will tell you that Southern Air went back and did it right.
If we pay $48,000 to clean the ducts and this is still not, it doesn't fix it, somebody else is writing a check.
I don't know that. Well, here's the thing. I think we came to the conclusion that
It's gonna improve the
it's
air
going to improve the air quality. It's something that should have been
I agree
included
with
in the
that.
contract.
I agree with that,
And
but
it may
I,
help the humidity.
well, then let me go this route. If we find out that it's a piece of equipment that's not working correctly or something that wasn't put back like it should, then we're not paying another penny.
I agree with that statement.
They're gonna do what it takes to get it right.
Right.
I agree with that statement.
That's.
And they gonna figure it out.
Southern Air, one of the two.
And don't care who shares it.
Yep, and they're gonna figure
You
it out.
don't ask us for another penny, cause we're having more problems now with an in-kind replacement than we had before. That, to me, that's, something's not right.
I don't disagree with that statement. I think it's what we're going through right now is covered under the warranty section of the project.
Hey, yep, we've got a year. We should have a year.
We have a year. Now, our year started back in the spring with substantial completion. But my feeling is, I won't sound too critical, I'm not happy with the humidity issue.
So, I guess getting back to, I think it was mine or Jason's question, John told me you guys were gonna record the humidity
Yes.
now,
Yes,
so that we have a baseline
yes.
to show after this cleaning and everything, whether we actually are improving something or not.
So he has a humidity sensor, and I don't know, I think he has one which is kind of in a general location where we're having issues.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I think he can move it from room to room.
He-
Cords in there for the time period, moves it to the next one.
Yeah. So really not gonna see where we're at until we get kids back in there. Because when you get 20 kids in a room,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have a lot more
Right.
just talking,
Sure.
interacting.
Well, especially if it's like it was last week. Can you imagine, as hot as it was, the humidity levels outside? But it'll be like when you get inside.
So
So we're gonna be able to keep the building comfortable enough to keep classes going?
my initial feeling on that is, I mean, there's nothing, the temperature is setting at 70 degrees. It's just humid.
Okay,
Now, one of the things that we did back in the spring was they had their set points set high at 73. We have now lowered that set point back down to 70, 71 with a 3-degree swing. So the teachers have a 3 degree plus, 3 degree minus, okay? So they can go back to 67 degrees or they can go to 73. We did not have that set before. So my feeling is that helped a little bit. I still think there's something with an economizer or something like that, some piece of equipment that's gotta be tweaked, that's pulling in outside air. But again, I'm not an HVAC expert, but it needs to be fixed. And I
Okay.
agree with your statement, they need to fix it.
They're gonna figure it out.
But I like the Band-Aid, but the Band-Aid knocks some of your efficiency off, and the fact that we've got to run it to make up for the humidity issue.
We had that prior to, we had that 3 degree swing plus or minus in the previous system.
I mean, I don't mind that, but what I'm saying is, in a system that's working properly with humidity, that 3-degree swing is just taking care of comfort issues and personal comfort. What we're doing is we're running the system harder to take up for the humidity issue if it's in there. So that's,
You know, I'd be one of them teachers that was on that. You know what my classroom would be like? I'd be using that 67 degree.
We'll stay on and try to get the
okay.
next one, auditorium lighting, band and corral room. Excuse me, not lighting, the sound system. Sound system, we've told ZMM to move forward, they are. Last communication we received from the company was anticipate October, November, when that would be installed.
What did you
Starting
say?
installed October or November, later October, early November. And again, that depends on any issues they have with stuff being delivered. I know they asked for, to provide colors of the speakers and the subwoofers and some other things just here this week, so,
Colors,
yeah, black or white,
okay,
Silver,
speakers, silver, gold,
they need to be neutral.
well, that's,
No
It's
blue,
not.
red.
Well, no,
It's
it's black or, it's black or white for the speakers and the subwoofer and the,
Okay.
and now it was an iPad that's gonna run the system, that the color of that, that's not a big thing.
Yeah.
The iPad, the one that's,
Everything else is
yeah,
standard.
everything else is standard.
Okay. It makes me nervous when I hear color.
No, it is not red, blue, green, yellow, no, it's not none of those colors, black or white.
Keep it neutral.
It's not-
So can we get a list of potential activities that may be happening in that auditorium before that time? Hopefully very little, not practice and stuff like that, but is there anything that somebody's gonna come to us and say we're getting ready to have?
We've got back to school activity there, August 15th, we've already taken care of.
Okay. Very good.
I'd say probably not till the Christmas concert.
Right, I'm imagining if we can hit that October,
If they can hit the
we're
October.
gonna get ahead of most of what
If they
happened.
get that October, November, I think that would get it.
Okay.
And we're still dealing with the lighting. I've reached out to a couple of folks to see if we can get somebody in there to come in and at least look at it. And I can't make contact with anybody, so I'm gonna keep digging on that. I met with our parent group, focus group.
Do they not have?
They it's the same contacts pretty much as I do. I've been pretty busy here these past month and a half, but I've been trying to get something together. Last time I talked with Lee Hartman, I asked to have somebody call me back. I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna keep trying. We need to do something.
Did you ever find a disc or get?
I don't know the status of that, so.
I think Nares has got. I think they can use Nares' disc.
Probably could.
Yeah.
System.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
And
I think.
part- I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
mean, I think. Yeah, if you're getting the sound, we can get some lights working just fine. I mean, if you talk to Heather, she could probably give somebody some ideas to get that thing done.
Is it just a disc? So
Each school had a disc. I think somehow Giles has got lost. Yeah, it happens.
Quarter-inch disc, whatever the size is, old, small.
Yeah, little 3.5 inch. Yeah, they both had the same. That was when we talked about it last time. Talking to Heather, she said something after that meeting that they could use Nares'.
they're still using the disc for their lights on a regular basis.
Yeah, but I think it just boots up. I mean, it might be hard. Somebody at Tech could probably make a copy of it, but I think the system just needs to be rebooted. I think basically somebody needs to take custody of that disc, and the school needs to
And
reboot.
reboot it,
Yeah,
and then you can just send it back.
It was my hopes to get with Lee Hartman or Stage Sound, or somebody to say, okay, it appears that our main issue is like a controller type issue. The lights are old, but is there something updated controller wise that you can come and plug the existing lights in that we can at least rudimentary run our lights?
Yeah.
It's just,
Can we try the disc idea?
I'm open to trying anything right now, so, yeah.
My suggestion would be whoever has control of that disc at Narrows personally doesn't let it get away from them.
Heather won't.
Puts it in there, sees if it works, and when it leaves with them.
Here's the issue. One, trying to find a 3.5 inch disc. Two, trying to find a computer to actually make a copy, because we had issues with ZMM. They luckily had a working CD burner.
Well, let's see if the disc idea works, and then if it does, then we can go the route of trying to find if somebody's smart enough to make a copy.
Yeah, and then I mean, looking at the controls, to me that makes sense if the actual lighting is usable, decent.
Because right now that price we're gonna have a hard time coming off the money to do what they've budgeted right now. And so clearly we gotta have an interim solution. So we gotta have some way to figure out how to get them to work for a while. Maybe when the bubble bursts on the economy, we can revisit the new system, but.
Well, we could, I think what we had discussed prior to is included in the Giles High School HVAC roof and the replacement as an
Yeah, I mean, I think before this full board is gonna get behind that, we will need to exhaust all possible,
Yes, sir.
all possible options.
Yes, sir.
Is that,
I think so, I mean, you know, Mr. Mills needs a roof.
Mills needs a roof.
I mean, that's it's not diminishing the need for these lights and wanting to support everything that we've got, but that's, at some point,
well, at that level of spend, we have got to, as a board, make sure that there's nothing else we could have done to give the kids and teachers those lights. Cause we're gonna get questions, as we should, from the kids and teachers in there, if we're putting brand new, better than down there, then we gotta be able to answer to folks why we're taking the road that we're taking. So we need to look through everything.
I will exhaust every possibility.
And I'm not saying that we are better. Mr. Buckland made sure we were gonna try to stay as close to similar at Narrows as we can. And we just,
but, and I think, you know, there's gonna be some, I'm sure that if folks are looking at this and they're wondering, okay, we just approved without too much debate, $120,000 for lights, and we're not doing the same thing for the arts program. What in my mind makes the difference is if Giles High School can't host home football games, then Corral loses their fundraiser. Athletics, we're gonna have to put money in athletics for Giles High School until such time as those are fixed, because the football program gate supports the entire athletic budget. And that's gonna cost a lot more than $120,000 every time if we don't fix it. And it's not that I don't respect the arts, it's just, that's a cascading effect.
that's a good point. Because that is every program. The referee fees last year were what, $40,000?
At least, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
it's,
So the gates pay referees for every sporting, I don't know if that's how Narrows works.
I mean, football, men's basketball support, and girls basketball, I mean, and volleyball, those are the four that support the entire athletic sport program.
And the arts absolutely make all their money for what they do to travel in that bandana bar. So that is a very good point. Okay,
Giles High School track, crew was here last Friday. They removed the material rubberized surface they had put down on the two runways. It is off the runways now. There's another crew that's supposed to be coming the second week of August, so we anticipate August 9th to 14th, that time frame that they will be here. To put back the rubber surface appropriately on the runways and add on the high jump area.
Pray for hot weather.
can we, this is a full board decision, but I'm a little bit snake bitten with what happened last time. Can we have somebody that knows what they're looking at from ZMM be there when they're putting that down to document that it is actually the thickness that it needs to be, that the temperature is what it should be, all the things that a normal construction inspector does. I mean, I don't know that we'll get another cut at getting them to come back without some significant pushback on hundreds of excuses.
No, I think that's necessary, because I think you're gonna have, I think that's the problem before, I think they put it down.
Yeah, but then when we had no documentation to say whether it was or
They also
not.
put it down too thin.
Yeah, so
On the
let's,
runways, it was too thin.
and I'd like to,
They agreed with that from the day, from the get-go, that was too thin on the two runways.
so if we could get a inspection summary, I don't want to pay for some big report. The way we have them in my office, it's one page. It has temperature, conditions, what was done, how much was put down, the time they started, the time they stopped. It's just one, like, on a single page. If someone wanted to go back and say, well, let's see what happened, it's all right there. Should not be a big ask.
Yeah, we can, we'll talk to, Bill. Bill is who we have gone through this.
Okay.
Does our warranty start back over after they redo these?
Wood for the runways and the,
And we walked the whole track and there's no other places.
we have walked the whole track. The issues that were identified, some of them need to be, we need to address them by killing some of the, spraying the outside of the grass so it's not growing up and causing the rubber to peel off of the track. We need to get that sprayed the whole way around the outside. And the other areas, I think, that we've talked about.
Okay. Can we have, before they paint those runways, because I heard about this from Coach Kelly and the track coaches, they need to be involved in how they put those bars back. Because we're up there during regional meets with a can of spray paint, adding the right bar for long and triple jump. They said something about that's what the colleges do, Coach Kelly said it wasn't right. So as long as before that paint goes down, somebody needs to go up there and make sure that's what we want. So we're not using a can of white spray paint on the rubber track.
We'll verify that as well.
What about the football field?
I've not been up there in probably the last 2 weeks, but when I went up there, you could tell it looked better than it was coming back.
Theirs is still looking good?
Green.
Had a little issues. Hydraulic line busted on the real mower. We thought that it was gonna kill it,
Oh, God.
but it's fine. It looks good.
Yeah.
That's why I heard that, and I wasn't sure how that did.
Kelly told me, I was like,
Wasn't as bad as what we thought.
yeah. Had to get mowers in.
We'll talk about that later.
Oh, please, I was gonna say, or hopefully we're not gonna get on that subject again.
I think that's all facilities, things that I recall, there's a couple of things we're gonna ask you here under another request, that's project type things. Unless you all got something that I forgot to bring up.
Whoever did the painting at Nares on the back, it's the best it's looked in years. I guess the county did some painting.
County went through and did, the main screws did some painting in all the facilities.
It looks the best. It's
150.
150 gallons, I think it said they called it.
Good grief.
So.
really, I mean, it needed it. I'm just happy that the weed that was growing up behind the gym there is killed and dead. I noticed that yesterday when I was on the phone. Where I go out and take my phone calls and I see the thing I always noticed.
That thing's been there for 10 years.
Do we during Christmas break rebuff the gym floors at both high schools?
We did not this past school year because of the material they put down. We did not need to.
I've heard some complaints about it been during basketball season starting to get more again. So I didn't know if that's something we need to address in December.
We can.
Patrick, you had any problem with your floor?
Ours is in good shape, it's best it's been. I am worried that we didn't use the same product that was put on it last year. I'm a little bit worried if it's going to maintain throughout the school year this year. It is? Okay, I was told what?
Also, it's the same company, same product, same number.
Okay, that should be good to go.
So they're all redone now.
That's good. They have all been screened and a new coat's put on except Mason.
Because they've done.
Brought this
They gotta
up.
fix that floor.
They've gotta fix the floor, well, that we put, you knew about the moisture problem under the floor, trying to draw the moisture out. We put fans in there, they pulled the floor up in an area inside both of the doors to come in the gym. And we had fans in there, the big industrial fans, to try to move some area. And we also asked them to put after Mike met with, the company, put some dehumidifiers in there to pull the moisture out as well. Unfortunately, when the dehumidifiers were put in, more water was poured back on the floor.
They forgot to put the
So that floor has not been done because the moisture issue has not been, the moisture issue, that the floor can't be done at this point in time because of the moisture issue.
So the company taking the water out,
No.
concentrated it and poured it back into her floor?
No,
No.
no.
We did it?
No,
Okay,
we.
I get it. Gotcha. So what's the next, what's moving forward? We gotta wait for the moisture to
We
get,
gotta get the moisture out, and right now we turned it over to Bay Corp again.
Not yet. So I have talked to ProSource extensively, and he told me, he said, Mike, I can come in and I can screen the floor and put your new finish on it. He said, I'll be back in 6 months because it's going to peel up. It's going to pop up. He goes,
No.
You're just going to waste your money.
oh,
So my plan, and I've talked to ProSource about, is, you know, when we say we cut out a section, we cut out a section about this wide, about, you know, probably
3 by
4 by
5.
3, 4 by 3, something like that. So I've asked them to come back in and patch the floor, weed back the floor in that area, not finish it. Personally, we've been trying to get this moisture out here since probably April. And it just, you know, we had it good at one end of the building, one end of the thing. We were still high over here where the coach's office or the PE office was. Well, now we're worse than we were back in the section where the water was filled. And if we cut that up, it's gonna hamper the usability of the gym. You gotta think, we got rec sports in there. It's cupped now, but I don't believe it's a tripping hazard. The word that, I don't believe it is. Tim's coming back, ProSource is coming back on August 14th. So they're doing us a favor and trying to work us back into a schedule, but August 14th is basically it. So I'll reevaluate at that point, to see what we can do. The only, we've talked about filing an additional claim with Baycor, and I think we need to. And it might be, folks, we might just have to rip a third of the gym floor and replace it. But you can't do anything until you get the moisture out. Now, what a lot of folks don't know is we have the gym floor, and underneath that gym floor is a layer of 3/4 inch plywood, and then concrete. So what's holding the moisture is the plywood. And the reason why it's so wet on that end, what ProSource figures, and it makes sense, is the water, even the water from the other end of the gym, travel along the stage, settled in the lowest point, which is the lowest point was over near the office area. That's the, we're running 16 to 20% moisture.
so why did we ever have press board or plywood and then the floor was a leveling issue? Did we have plywood?
I mean, I can only speculate. Apparently that's pretty common. That's pretty typical.
There's some school down in Southwest was getting a new gym, and I saw on Twitter they posted up and they said we're almost there, and I could see they had plywood down.
Well, my guess is there's no way to nail the hardwood floor into concrete.
Yeah. Unless you glued it down. I think it's for.
Well, and then you got the moisture issue too on the concrete. I mean, I think that plywood is if you do get it, you've got something that doesn't destroy your wood.
Yeah.
I mean, the moisture reading tells the story, right? I mean, we're just not gonna be able to invest money in until that moisture's gone.
Doesn't make sense to have him come do it, and if we know the moisture's there,
No.
he's gonna come back 3 months, 5 months, however much later, because it's just popping right back off, because it doesn't make sense.
We're gonna be putting new
And then you got-
HVAC in.
And we're one, according to county maintenance, we're 1 unit down. Because we lost a unit during, what caused this whole issue. And our thinking was, it made no sense to go back in and replace that unit when we're getting ready to replace all of HVAC, make sure we have all the same equipment. But that's when we were actually going to start the project this summer. Things happened, we're delayed. I was in there the other day. I mean, it's comfortable. It's just not pulling all the moisture out. Sucking the
It'll be
moisture.
into the fall before we start getting it out, and we get reloaders.
So in the cupping issue, the only concern that I have, if a kid was to slide across that, would it tear their skin up? And if so, do we need to sand that down?
I
Or
can
it's
ask
cutting.
him about that. I mean, anything's possible. When I was up there, I mean, when you run your hand across it, you can tell it. You can visually tell it. And it might be, the only problem is if I ask him to sand it down, then you lose your finish on top of it.
And how big an area is it? And is it in the
Probably,
play area?
probably as big as this table right here.
Would it be where they would be playing during gym?
Could be.
I mean, it's not gonna look beautiful, but if he sands it and puts a couple of coats of poly on it, that means you just gotta come back up when they redo it.
It would be, well, here's the problem. If you sand it, put a couple coats of poly on it, it's no different than refinishing the floor. You're re-trapping that moisture in there. You're redoing the barrier that's keeping the moisture in.
So we're trying to stay off that
Now,
section
you
of the
could-
floor as much as possible.
You could sand it and not put anything back on it. You could try to sand it lightly, but it's just gonna pick up dirt. I mean, it's gonna be like a sponge.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's up to you, Dr. Brown. I just wanna make sure we don't have you said it's not a tripping hazard, but if it's in the area of play, they'll be sliding and doing everything else on it.
So one of the things that you could do is, it's not ideal, and I don't like it. You could block off half your gym, have them come in, remove that section of floor, let it dry out, and come in and put new floor down, polyurethane it, be done. It ain't gonna match. It's gonna be all, crazy looking. But here's the other thing I can do. I can get with him. He's supposed to come up August 14th. I can get with him and call him prior to and say, what are our options?
But it's on that end where you enter the gym, correct?
It's on the
So
end.
how would they get in and,
No, there's two.
There's two entrances.
There's two entrances.
oh, so they could go in on that far?
The entrance that's close to where the bus.
Right, that's the entrance when you went to rec sports, that's how you use it.
And that's the side that we're missing a unit. The end down near I call it pre-K end.
Right.
That moisture was okay. That unit's working.
Make sure we're stuff done with the gym floor, if y'all want to go to the other piece.
Well, I got one last question then. Even though it's curled a little bit, the floor's still got poly on it and it's still trapping the moisture like it is right now, right? So how much worse
Well-
should we make it if we just sand it out and put one coat on?
It's coming in. That's what I was told is if you do that, put the poly in, it's going to come. You're removing material and it'll do the same thing.
Talk to them.
Okay.
As you know, as part of that refinishing the gym floors, we also had the stages being refinished. The stage in Macy was refinished, the stage at Giles was refinished. This company did not refinish the stage at Harris High School. Harris High School had some, what we thought was duct tape. He said that needed to be removed. It's actually, I don't know the terminology, just the fluorescent tape that they put, that the theater puts down so you can see when it's darker up there. But he needed that removed and needed it scraped. We asked for it to be scraped. House. And we were just notified here within the last week that there was a finish put back on that stage, not by the guy that came to do the other floor, but by maintenance.
How did that happen? They just, was that a work order request?
The work order request was for them to scrape up the residue in the tape.
Right?
That was it.
We had already had this other company.
That was part of the RFP, yes,
Yes.
was the gym floors and the stages.
We're gonna have to figure out how to sand that off so they can do their job. I mean, that's what's gotta happen, right? So before, what was their,
I think we need to put eyes on it. We've not seen what they put on the floor, like what the stage looks like.
so what's their course of action? We gotta get them in there and see if there's extra work that,
We need to look at it first to say. We've not had the opportunity to look at it. We were just, again, when they found out this week what was put on there.
can we find out how and who directed
But we
our maintenance folks to put floor poly down?
we can go down that. Yeah.
Only to make sure that we don't have a communication problem. We're getting ready to do a,
There's no communication issue from this office.
well, I mean, I understand that we want stuff done sometimes more quickly, but we can't go around the communication protocol we have in place. Especially when we're spending $40 million over the next few years. There's got to be, okay. Not that that's like the end of the world, but we've got to be clear.
No, I just.
When we have RFPs out and we.
Making sure that Mr. Buckland knew in the event he heard anything
I
from the Western Mass.
I talked to Heather yesterday about it. We had a lengthy conversation. She knows where we're at with it, how we got there.
So you have spoken with her?
We
Talked to her yesterday.
Okay.
we need to go lay eyes.
Yeah, we've not seen it, we've not looked at it, we've not put,
So it just got done.
it happened within the last week. Is that right?
Just trying to help. I mean, I don't think the intention
No,
was
yeah,
that.
I mean,
They
that's-
just thought
that's-
it needed to be done and they did it. It didn't help.
I'm not blaming anybody, I'm
Yeah.
just,
It's
what
just,
you know.
it's something
It's an
happens.
accident. We can fix it.
Something that happens.
Huh?
Just add one.
That, I think that covers, I don't know that there's any other facility thing unless you all have got something else.
So Philip would ask about, do we need to consider screening down again after volleyball? Or is that, we're gonna wait and see if,
How in the world would you do that? The season?
You'd have to do it over Christmas break.
we did it, we've done it like
It's
that
been
before.
done.
Say for volleyball
It's been
and
done
basketball, it's,
It's been done before, and if it needs to be done, if it needs to be done.
Well, and I mean, Patrick and the other coaches can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're having to do that because we had waited so long to redo them and get them refurbished, that we were like just Band-Aiding as much as we could. And so if they're holding better now and we're doing like we should to clean them, and we get confirmation from the basketball coaches that they are in good shape for that season, I think we can say we don't need a screen again. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
You all got a good Christmas turkey down there, don't you?
We, like you said, we did it there for 2 or 3 years before we got the floor done. They did do it during Christmas break at some point. I don't know if we scheduled our games in January late, but ours was great last year, so hopefully we won't need to do that again.
I mean, I think we just keep keep up that cleaning regimen.
That's what they've been doing, they're supposed to keep it clean, and I think that's what they've been doing.
So the finish we use on those floors it's polyurethane. Or
Right.
it's oil-based polyurethane. Because I had thought about exploring water-based, and I was cautioned very heavily not to go to a water-based finish, because you would have to redo it twice a year at twice the cost.
I think they're a lot better since we got back around on top of it.
Since we've done
It's
what we've
been,
been doing, I think,
It's,
putting the new finish we put on it and the new cleaning regimen, I think has helped.
and the ADs need to be, and principals need to be relentless about what kind of shoes are worn on those floors and the traffic on them. And if we're gonna use them for baseball and other stuff, the mats better be on top of it. And I don't know anything about Nares, but I spend a lot of time in Giles' gym. If we don't find a way to be absolutely clear that if we catch you on that floor, you don't get to come back, then we'll find an administrator that can.
You gotta hire yourself a
I don't care. Well, I mean, it's,
I mean, he is, woo,
right, and so I think that's,
he is.
I don't think the board could be any more clear. The money that we've invested in these, I don't wanna hear, well, we don't know how to keep them off. It is your building.
He makes a lot of people mad, but that's okay.
Well,
Hey,
and
he
then,
works, don't he?
you know, and then to combat that, because we weren't policing, there's no water or food in there now. And, I mean, I had to sit up in the corner on top of everything else going on in the county and my own building. I had to sit in the corner because everybody's mad because we can't have food and drink in there. You can't have it both ways. So, just let's make sure we start the season with an announcement that is very clear. This gym floor is very important to us. And afterwards, if I see a bunch of cowboy boots on there, I'm gonna lose my mind. Mr. Pennington, you can help me out and say that we both agree that that's got to be,
Well, if I'm up there and I see them walking across those in boots on, I tell them get off.
yeah. It's just setting the mindset. And if,
Right, just gotta get used to it.
I mean, if Nares has gotten that to a science, then maybe somebody needs to go down there and ask them how they're doing
It's
this.
called wormy.
It's called.
Maybe
work.
did he bring Wormy up here when we have home games?
Yeah, honey, he would do it.
Oh, he
See,
does.
willing to-
I've been down there when he's got
Have a
home.
side contract to moonlight.
So surprised.
I mean, it don't bother him one bit.
Yeah.
He don't care who you are either. He
Well,
told
man.
me to get off.
He made a coach from Galax. Volleyball coach said, take her shoes off and coach with the shoes on.
Doesn't matter,
Yeah, that's what I like about
we'll
it.
get an email.
Well, and it's the same during gym class. I don't have any idea what's going on then, but that's when a lot of the damage can be done.
We'll get notifications out.
Okay.
Other items, just to make you aware of, the school security equipment grant, as you know, that's a grant we submit each year to DOE. That was submitted, it had to be submitted by August 1st, that was submitted end of July. Just to remind you, that is, we requested, the grant we sent in, we requested $200,000 plus our 25% match for $50,000, so it was a $250,000 grant that was submitted. That again is for upgrading camera systems, the handheld radios, internal communication system within one of our buildings, the ballistic shield glass on some of the indoor classrooms at Eastern, those type of things, and the technology to support the new camera systems that are being installed, et cetera. So those are the type of things, again, that's continuing to be in that grant opportunity request.
And we had set what specifically we were gonna get with that money
That
in that request,
Each-
right?
Each school communicates what the request is, that is requested by a school and it's approved by a school.
Okay, So we work with the principals at each building to,
Mr. White does, Mr. White and
Okay.
Dr. Brown sat down and talked about them. I looked over at the lab before I submitted it.
Okay.
So it's,
that's good.
a couple requests from the schools that I need to, just so you're aware that what I'm gonna do, as long as you're comfortable with it. Giles High School, we sent out, coaching, allocations, here a couple weeks ago, to both high schools. Giles High School in the past has combined the cheerleading, varsity and JV. The same person has done both. Unfortunately, this year, they cannot do, the same person's not gonna do both, varsity and JV cheerleading. So they need an additional $2,100 to be able to cover the coaching allocation for the JV cheerleading slot. And that's the fall and the winter, total for fall and winter.
I don't know how to navigate discussing that.
I think in the past, haven't we just said, here's your money, allocate it amongst your programs the way you want to do it? Traditionally,
They have, but we did not increase, that they had the same amount last year as they do this year. So they already had it basically allocated. So they've got this, this splitting this JV out, and they also added middle school that they had to pay last year as well.
But didn't,
Is that the salary of JV cheerleading sponsored now?
It's combined, it's part for spring, fall and part for winter. It's split, there's two coaching supplements, they would be doing it both seasons. I don't have it in front of me what it is, I think it's 1,500 and 600.
so when we reset those and tried to get kind of back in a better place, remember that effort we went through?
Schools did, yes.
Yes. Did both schools have kind of a general idea of what those positions get paid?
Yes, I believe so. Each school has an idea. I mean, each school has an idea what they're paying each of their coaches.
And I know we didn't want to get in the
Spreadsheet.
we didn't want to get in the weeds on that, and I still don't. But I think what Melissa's saying, when we did that, we said, here's a bucket of money. If you want to have 4 assistant coaches on your football team and not have any assistants and pay another one, I think we gave them flexibility to kind of do that.
with some guardrails that we shouldn't be, the female sports shouldn't be I won't say discriminated against, but they should be given fair
Correct.
compensation.
And they were based on what the review that went through, yes.
But what I want to try to avoid, I'm just one board member, I get questioned all the time. I don't know about you, Jason, but every time they want to maybe do a little something different with their coaching staff, somebody will say, can you guys approve another $2,000? And if, I don't want to get to where,
We added 3,000, then we added,
The only thing that we've been approving, adding to the coaching that I recall is when we've added another coach or another position.
Program.
Wrestling, we've added a wrestling program, we added a dollar amount to cover that.
Right.
Because
It was a whole new program.
The $3,000 that Mr. Buckman's mentioned for the band, whatever you're gonna call them, that was added for this year.
yeah, and I was talking about the wrestling program, when we added the wrestling coach, you know, I don't have a problem.
Program.
Basically, my feeling on it is, it's the same for both schools. You've got a pot of money that you've got guidelines. If it's, like I said, we don't need to be paying the boys' basketball coach a lot more than the girls' basketball coach. That kind of stuff, but other than that, that's your money to spend.
They've done that and gone through that. I know Ms. Mustang sat down with them when they went through that 3 years ago. $1,000 each.
3 band helpers at $1,000 each is what the board
Okay.
Yeah.
to it, which
So before, they had one person doing two jobs and weren't paying for both jobs.
Before, I mean, historically, they probably had split them up. Now here recently, they combined them and they didn't need all that, probably all the money. And probably allocated it. Now they can't, they need another person, and now they need to allocate it back out. It's not there because of picking up the other sports.
So they had one person doing two jobs
Yes.
and only paying them.
Covering varsity and JV.
I mean, like I said, my thought on it would be the same if Brian and Kelly came here and said, look, I need the additional money. I mean, this is just, we start getting into individual coaching stipends. That's not a can of worms I want, we tread very carefully when we did that with some guidance to correct some inequities that we saw, and I don't want this to be a every year exercise. Because every time we get in this, that's a daggone can of worms that I don't want to get into.
The only problem that I have is if we've set a precedent that when a new position is not creative, if a new position is put in front of us at that cost, if we have traditionally funded that, then I don't want somebody to come back and say, well, you guys handled this one way, and then you handled the other one different. Band wasn't a new program.
Well, I don't consider band an athletics coaching stipend. I consider band, but I think we get a lot of guff for not supporting the arts, and I think that's
very true. I think we were adding those assistants because it is a curriculum activity, and we were told that was needed to make that curriculum work. So this is definitely not the same as that.
And like I said, if a school comes to us and says, we want to bring in a lacrosse program per se, and they've looked at it, it's a sustainable program, and we're gonna need funding for coaches, and we're gonna need funding for X, I'm all for that, but
It's like the wrestling program.
Well, but here's my other problem, and it's not because of the type of position. So everybody that's listening to this, it has nothing to do with whether it's cheerleading, cheerleading or tennis or football. We're trying to make sure we follow what we have set forth. Now, here's my other question, Dr. Rodriguez. When we started looking at these coaching things, we asked for the balance in those general funds, and nobody's broke. None of our athletic big money makers are broke. And so when we get a request for like a $2,100, our thought was to go back and say, if you're running low on your balance and you're getting down to where you're not going to be able to make it, come on and ask us.
Is it something they can pull from their game monies?
Here's what I'd say. I think in my mind, I think that's for equipment and things. I think we've got a personnel cost, but there's a time, it's the budget time to come for that. And if somebody wants to add something or cover something out of the athletic budget for something that came up, great. But I think if you're saying, look, we need more $2,100 for a cheerleading sponsor because this thing came up at the last minute, I think that's better addressed if they want that as a fully funded continuing addition to the stipend budget. That needs to be brought up in January, February when we're going to the budget.
I will communicate back to Giles High School, based on what I'm hearing, that they need to, based on the allocations they've received, they'll need to make sure they cover any athletic coaching costs that they have.
Now,
What I'm hearing.
next year,
They have additional meetings, they can January, requested for November, December, requested for the budget process for next year, and we can consider adding it for next year.
and I think that follows what we.
That's what we would. That's our normal process, I think.
And I think in the middle of a budget year, we have got to be, this is, actually, it's our only job, is to manage the budget properly. And
I could put that anywhere.
so I think that's appropriate.
Can I say something?
What was that?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mark.
The normal process, you know, because if they can't cover that, and we say, we're not gonna have JV cheerleading, because we can't afford $2,100. We've got millions and millions that we've solved, we've got this, but we can't give you $2,100 to support and have JV cheerleading. That's a better answer. This is about the kid. $2,100. We have to answer to that.
But Mark, we're not saying that that they can't have that program, they just need to ask for it during budget.
What if they can't cover that, and
But we know they can.
They can't.
We know they can.
Their athletic budget.
We saw those balances back when we tried to make sure we were healthy in our athletics. We wanted to make sure we were still operating in a healthy manner. And we wanted to know if we really did need to up our input because gate wasn't getting it done. We got kids with not safe equipment. We're not gonna get to that point. But when we looked at all that, it looked like we were pretty healthy in our budget. I just don't wanna set a precedent, Mark, that anytime during the year, if they wanna give raises or add a position or somebody, we can't just have them sporadically coming back for 21 here, 5,100 there.
hey, this is a little bit different than that, though. This is, you had somebody doing both positions. I think it was pre-planned, I think they probably had a lot of time to do this. And this is kind of a little bit different, I think. I don't know any of the details, but, you know, this happened probably mid-year or whenever, where it fell upon their lap that they want to have that head coach do both of them.
When they combined them, did the coach get both salaries?
I'd have to look to see.
Or did they just get one salary for,
I'd have to look to see what was on the agreement last year.
I mean, is the head coach getting a reduction in their stipend or?
The head coach is gonna get what they have allocated for the head coach and varsity cheerleader.
So they're getting the full stipend they already had before, because they can't handle the JV.
I don't know whether they got the other stipend for JV as well. I'd have to look to see. I don't look
Said
at
it
it.
mattered. No one was
That would be good.
According to this, they got their head coaching salary and then they're adding the JV to it. So they're saying that there's $1,500 added to what was last year, so if she would've got it, it wouldn't have been added.
But if they've always had those two positions, either they paid one person to do both, and now that they're having less responsibility, they get less money, or they paid one person only enough to do both jobs, and they took that money that should have been used for that one and they put it somewhere else. That's the two, I mean, that's how I think it worked. So again, we're not telling you what to do. If you wanted to do that, that's great, but now that you've changed how that works, it's gonna take a year to,
I think we just need to find out whether she was getting both salaries for varsity and JV.
We need to pull the
okay.
agreement, or she can ask.
I think it's
Agreement from last year, I'd have to go find it. I don't know. Where the coaching agreements are from
Just get,
last year.
see if you can get that pulled together and just let us know, so we can.
Cause she was getting both of them.
Yeah.
Then they just need to take that part of it and give it to the JV. Yeah.
That's right.
I
If she's
agree,
only
I
getting
agree.
paid for one, then you need, like you said, we need to figure out where that other money was going to for that JV coach.
Yeah, that's right.
All this,
All this sounds like we're spending an awful lot of time on it. People don't understand that if we don't carefully navigate this, it will turn into an absolute circus.
I mean, we'll be getting requests every month for, hey, we need this new. I need an assistant defensive line coach, Steve.
And you approved one, you approved more last meeting, so why not us now?
Oh my God.
All right, well, let me see what we can put together and find.
And we're not, we want to support extracurriculars and do it, but we just gotta, can't open Pandora's box by just.
Next item.
Okay. Couple other requests from the tech center. One I need to ask you, because I can't remember where your agreement consensus was on this, the Ag Land Lab building. I don't recall whether you told us we could proceed with that, or we were waiting on something.
Can't remember if we were waiting on something from you guys.
I thought we were.
I thought.
The cost is the same cost. The cost won't change from what we shared. The Ag Lab office to be built, concrete slab, building materials, sewer line, electrical, plumbing, and then there's a contingency added there. It was just almost $24,800 rounded.
That does not
But
include
that does not include the HVAC for a mini split system. So I figure you're gonna add another 3,000 at least to that total. So the total cost will be somewhere around 28,000. Tech Center does have $10,000 to put towards that.
what, we hung up on some kind of ditch they need to dig or something?
No, I mean, that's PSA, the county maintenance, they're gonna put the sewer line in. That was the agreement when we started this whole process.
Okay.
But I thought it was,
We need to get something stamped, was there something that needed to be?
The stand.
there was a code, there was a code issue we were trying to work through with John Ross about, we were gonna see if we could make it bigger and add something later.
We went through all that. I think we worked through all that, so we're fine.
Okay,
We submitted it to John, we submitted it to the town, we got our setbacks, everything like that. I believe we're ready to go, because we showed it as a future addition. And they were okay with that.
so we're gonna try to do a covered area and then
No, this is.
cover that in after the fact, like a covered area?
Building 4 walls,
This is just
classroom,
an
office
office.
area.
So we are gonna have classroom and office? No,
You had one in the classroom, we can't afford, that's gonna be like 30, 40, 50,000
Okay.
bucks. This is just an office.
This is just an office area, bathroom, handicap accessible bathroom up there.
Because, they were having to leave and go down to school to go to the bathroom, so
And
So-
it's also for their
keep their medicines and stuff in
Medicines.
the refrigerator.
Yeah. That sort of stuff up there.
and we're good with the location being where it's not gonna interfere with future expansion of anything that's all been thought through that.
it's gonna be right there at the end of one of those, I think it's right there at one of the hot tables, where they plant potatoes.
Okay,
How big is this building?
I have to go back and look, it's like 12 by 14, something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't super big.
Let's see.
Remember that,
we got his contractor brain going now. He's gonna do us a cost per square foot analysis right in front of us. A little much?
No, it's about where it should be.
Okay.
and plus they have $10,000 to put towards it, which is great.
Bathroom.
It was 12 by 23 foot 6 inches. And I have the information right here if you want to see it. Here's the zoning request that was submitted to the town. We've got the setbacks and all that.
So 12 by 23.
Mr. Steele, this is how it was presented to John.
So you like it even better, don't you?
Yeah.
He likes it even better.
Bigger cost less.
I was watching him punch there, he's like,
Y'all,
pull the trigger.
Mr. Ross requested these drawings. He also requested a typical wall section, which we provided him.
So block and wood, so we're going the block route,
No, sir, it's not block.
wood route.
Can't afford the block.
So wood, $17,000, and then the HVAC was another 20, you said?
Yeah, but you got concrete, you got wiring, you got, you know.
So the total was 38, you said?
The total was 28.
28, and that's including HVAC?
Well, that's if the mini split comes in around 3,000. I don't know how much that's gonna be. That's me guessing. That's about 3,000.
So at 28,000, that number's good, Phil?
He said yes, I
Okay.
saw him over there watching and he was like,
24.8 is what we anticipate the building.
Comes in much.
It is real good.
Have to open the window.
Concrete slab, $2,000. Building materials, $9,374.24.
yeah,
We're good, we're good, we're good.
pull the
We're
trigger.
We're good,
Yeah.
we're good.
Guys, I'm tapping out.
Okay, Mark.
Thank you.
Hope you feel better, Mark.
Yeah, I've been a horse head to shot me.
See you, Mark.
See you, Mark.
Mark.
So we'll tell, that way Jimmy can work with his building trades as well and get that on the agenda.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We need to make sure people know that we're able to do that work, or some of it with their tech center folks.
Jimmy needs to get on the schedule, so we'll give him a go.
Yes, good.
So we'll move forward, tell them to move forward with that. The other request from the tech center, as you know, they have the building that the building trades uses to build the houses within the weather. I don't know if you recall, when you go in there and you look inside, it's open. There's nothing, I mean, you got the metal roof on top, the metal side, but they're just the studs. It's got the insulation. They're having a problem with birds.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Birds.
Oh,
We saw that when the state
So
DOE person came.
they have metal on the inside up, probably 6 feet, 8 feet. They have requested to go the rest of the way up and then the roof, on the ceiling as well, to try to eliminate that problem with the birds, because that's not a good issue to have.
I didn't have a problem with any of that, other than what are they gonna do about humidity and it raining, and that if it's metal all the way up, are we not gonna have,
Well, you have the insulation.
Condensation.
Well, you have the insulation barrier.
okay,
So you have your metal roof, you have the insulation barrier, you'll have.
And they project it's about $7,900 to get the
That's not.
metal.
I mean, I
And
think
they have the outside enclosures and the inside enclosures as well.
that's kinda what makes us state of the art at that facility.
We pull the trigger, spend that, and I want you to know what we're doing and why we're doing it.
And I assume we had always intended to finish that out, but we just didn't know exactly what we wanted that to look like, so I don't think anything other than we're making that space finished and fully usable without letting the birds destroy our insulation and something we'd have to put money into at some point later.
Sanitary issues.
Or we get a kid that gets bird flu or whatever.
So we'll
Yeah,
tell-
we're good with the 79, yep, good to go now.
Alright.
Are we guys?
Um,
Will their maintenance install that, or we need to pay somebody to do it? Okay.
I'm gonna skip the next one, come back to it, that's gonna be a longer conversation. School calendar, I'm not sure, but I think I know what the conversation is, but because I had
Yeah, I've just said, I normally have been one to, I mean, my thought on it, again, I'm one board member, but going forward, this year particularly, the conversations from folks about why are we in school so late, and even to the point where we had people watching the May board meeting, I think we're gonna let them out of school a week early and those type of things. I think I personally would prefer that if we start looking to start by August 15th, or with our other school systems around here, or at least not where we're not 2 weeks behind, and then where we get out by June 1st at the latest. Virginia Tech soccer camp was that first week of June. I mean, our kids are starting to get other localities letting out, and these camps in the other counties that they go to are starting that week or the week before. Emily talked about some of her kids that had to duck out to go to camps or programs that were starting. And I think we're getting behind because we're the outlier. But again, that's just me. I just wanted to put that out there. That's what I'll be looking at come February or whenever we're approving the school calendar.
I mean, myself personally, I've always been for start because I had a child that had an IEP and needed to finish her stuff before she went out. I mean, I think everybody on this board knows how I've always felt about that. I mean, it's just, we do have two schools on different systems, and I'll just look at it for what's best for our students. So, I mean, as far as that stuff, I've always been the one who voted against it, in the past. Besides this year, I think.
I think we tried to put that back on the calendar committee
Which I don't understand.
to keep from us being put in that position, because my schedule is the same no matter what the school's like. I mean, we were trying to get some feedback from the committee on that calendar, and did the committee say that they'd like to try to get back to that schedule? I'm just trying to make sure.
Get back to starting earlier.
Yes.
When we have had the conversation, from my recollection, is that the consensus was this is the earliest that they would like to start what we're going to. Is that true?
Even representation from
Not from the
Not-
Western.
Nurse High School?
No. With block scheduling, it would be ideal for them if first semester was over by Christmas. That way SOL testing was done, exams were done, and we go on Christmas break.
This isn't,
And that's a conversation we've had for.
this is
Years.
This is from folks coming where they were complaining about, you need to let us out early, what are we still doing in school? And
I did have
And the
that
other-
conversation multiple times this year.
the other thing that concerns me is when we start talking about recruitment and retention. I know this whole thing about how we had to change the pay, but we're basically, I think, if we're getting somebody from another county that's starting that early, are they basically going, and assuming they pay a 10-month contract out over 12, or is that person going to have to go without a check to come here? I mean, I know it's the same amount.
I've not heard that, but again,
I mean, if that's how we, if you said they'll get paid twice in August, and if we ever wanted to revert back to the normal, the old way of doing it, that year the teachers would go a month without getting a paycheck. I would assume that if other counties paid similar ways, that somebody coming from a county that would start their contract during August would lose a month of pay. Or not a month of pay, but they would go without a paycheck.
I've not heard that, again, it's not, I've just not heard that from, I'd have to ask Barbara.
Well, the calendar issue to me, and I continue to get this question, why are we on two different schedules at the high schools to begin with?
All I can answer that question is that, historically, I mean, that's Harris High School, back when they went to block scheduling, Giles High School, I think both schools investigated that back in the nineties. And both faculties were involved, and at the time, both faculties had the opportunity to, I guess, vote, make a decision. Both Harris High Schools at that time felt block scheduling was the best for them. Giles felt the 7th period day was best for them. And that was back in 90, whatever. I'm not sure, I don't know the exact date, but I know.
I mean, I'm not advocating for either. I don't know which one's better, but I get a lot of questions about whether or not we're able to utilize staff efficiently if we were like sharing the way we're doing stuff, or if teachers wanted to be able to cover at a school if we had a program that didn't have as many kids. I mean, all that's would have to make us more efficient if we were both on the same
Even if you get a kid, you know, we've got this spattering of kids that transfer for various reasons between these schools, and that's a problem.
I mean, so I don't know.
I think to answer your question, it would be very challenging to try to have a teacher at Narrows or Giles cover classes at the other schools.
And
because of the schedule.
We're 7 miles apart.
It would be very challenging.
I'm not saying that that's a conversation for this meeting, but I don't think there's any way for us to not continue to be questioned by not just the county, but people in the community why it's like that. So I don't know. I'd like to see maybe some discussion from experts, which none of us are, on the pros and cons of us trying to come to a decision on having the same schedules at both high schools. But I'm one board member, but I think I continue to get that question, and I don't, this schedule thing's never gonna be, it's never gonna satisfy both schools because we're not on the same schedule.
And even, you know, since I came on this board, I know, like I said, I accepted the fact that, you know, whatever it was with the calendar, this year the realization hit me, it's not so much because, you know, I do think, yeah, there's Nares, to help the kids at Nares and the teachers at Nares if we get in before Christmas break. I'm just saying, I think it's getting to the point now where it's all the kids in the county are getting disadvantaged because they're not, you know, they're 10 to 15 days behind getting out and losing some opportunities, and they're 10 to 15 days later coming back, and, you know, you've got all the athletes coming back, you know, they were back July 31st this year. They had 52 days of summer break. You know, and I understand, sometimes you're gonna have baseball or soccer or something that's past the end of June that's gonna go on, but, you know, they were, you know, 10 days, almost 10 days into June getting out. But and the other thing, while they're looking at, one concern that I always hear from Nares folks about the block, or one advantage of it, if you've got kids that are really, you know, trying to take college placement courses, dual enrollment courses, AP courses, whatever they are, you know, that's five extra classes over the 5 years they're there, because the potential they could take. And, you know, somebody said to me once, it was, you know, that's a semester of college if you're getting, you know, 3 credit hours per that, and that's not cheap anymore. So just that would be a concern of, you know, preserving that opportunity, whatever, if anybody's having that discussion. And again, not saying, again, we're not the experts, but that's something I've heard from folks that kids have gotten out with a lot of credits and gone on.
I'd like to know that kind of detail. If there is benefit to the block, then what is that, and then vice versa.
And even putting Miss Mustang, when you guys went and looked at Northside or whatever, the AV block, you know, I think Mr. Bowles, when he was at Perry, or wherever, Buena Vista, I think they had an AV block that, I mean, it's kind of a compromise, isn't it?
So I think they had part of the AB that still has some year-long stuff.
Yeah, that's it.
So, I mean, I don't know if any other board members are interested, but I'd like to be able to answer that question.
Well, I think all y'all, ever since I've been on this board, I've always said we need to be on the same schedule. I sat right here when Marion was still here and said we need to be on the same schedule, whether it's one or the other. I'm like you, I'm not advocating for either one.
And I just say the one thing that I do hear from NARIS folks about the concern if you went back to 7 period with 2 things. One, they feel like they've got more time to focus on kind of remedial work after they get that lesson because of the big block. But then the other thing is that the extra 5 classes over a high school career. But other than that, like I said, I don't.
Can you start trying to put together some information for us?
Do what now?
I'll put in.
Since I've been here, I've almost got the cookie dough. I've got 3 messages since I've been here. You can take it.
My last year of having cookie dough.
That you can give to the county.
Yeah. Anything else on the calendar? I guess your comment was more that we need to start thinking, Jason, about and I agree, the rest of the world is going in a different direction than us. And kids are pretty much checking out mentally when everything else is firing up in the summer. So I've always seen that, and it's getting worse now. And now programs and even, I don't know, vacation and schedules and all kinds of stuff are gonna start, the rest of the world is going in a different direction than us. And I wanna make sure we don't meddle with the committee process too much, because before we did that, we were getting pinged. Each board member was getting pinged to try to levy for what was wanted, and I wanted to get a better, fair vision from the committee, but if that committee's not.
And again, I don't want to get in the weeds. I've always felt, I don't want like that. I want our staff to be happy with it, but at some point, I think, I would like to set a guardrail, at least in my mind, that's what I'm looking for. I want them the independence to be able to, do I agree with some of the calendar decisions we have, 4-day weeks when, parents aren't getting the 4-day week.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't, but I'm not gonna get in the weeds in that. If that's what our staff wants and it works out to where we can get with those guidelines, it's not hurting our kids in the educational process, it makes our staff happier, great. But, I think we're starting, like you said, I think you're starting to see the world move a little more, because it is tough to say, because, I grew up in a household, my father said that schools wouldn't start till after Labor Day, and I don't think they did till after he got off the board. He was a firm believer in that, but world's changed a little bit.
You have to disagree with it. That's okay.
Yeah, we'll put information together
Okay.
and get back to you, so we can have that conversation.
And I had mentioned, but maybe not formally enough for y'all to be ready, but at some point, getting some feedback on the visits he made to the middle schools and how that went, whether it was things that you think we could already do with the setup we have, or there were things that could only be done with the middle school. And if you're not prepared to do that, as long as we've been in this room today, that's okay. But just a formal request to kind of see if staff could put something together. We've told everybody that came to those meetings that was something that we were going to do to kind of put a bow around whether or not that even had any merit or not. So is that all right that we get them to go ahead and put that summary together? All right. You could probably talk in generalities, but we've had enough agenda items today.
You want the next?
Next work session? Yes. I don't want to get in the weeds at a board meeting with that.
September.
Yeah, so I think dates are next unless board members have.
I've got one other thing to talk about.
Okay.
I think adding to that middle school thing, I think you need to add in there the cost, the way we operate now, and the cost if we do have a middle school.
What do you mean the cost?
Well, if, we just need to know what we're spending now is to operate the way we are now. And if we happen to have a middle school, if it's gonna change one way or the other, higher or lower.
Transportation and everything.
I knew that one was coming, because we still don't have, I think, let's get to whether or not we want to get further down in the weeds. I think generally,
What you want is the educational benefits, not look at benefits or drawbacks or what you found that we're not offering that we could offer with the middle school or could offer, again, is there any reason we couldn't offer that now as it sits?
because there's no reason for us to spend a bunch of more time and energy in getting people worked up if we don't all agree that there is benefit to a middle school. That's where I am with it. So I think even if we find benefit, the next piece is cost. And if cost makes that whatever amount of benefit prohibitive, then that's the next discussion that we have. But
If there's no benefit, if we could be offering all those programs and there's no benefit to it, then there's no benefit to having a building that we say is a middle school, then at least for me, I mean,
the first step, I want to know what they saw. That's kind of what I think the next step is.
Well, maybe we can combine your last request with this presentation, but what you're gonna hear from the committee is that it's very obvious that both schools need to be on the same schedule. Both high schools need to be on the same schedule. No one was advocating for one or the other. And what you're gonna hear from our visit from the newly formed pre-K 8 school at Peterstown is that they wish they would have stayed their own middle school and not combined. But that's what you're gonna hear. We'll give you a overview of that.
Okay, that sounds captivating, Ms. Mustang. We'll be eagerly waiting the rest of that, if that. You had one more thing, Dr. Howard?
Yes, sir. Sent out to you last Friday, I believe it was. We received guidelines from DOE the week of July 17th, I think it was. I think it was Wednesday of the 19th, and we got it. The guideline, model policy guidelines. We do probably need to go to, before I get started, we need to go to closed session for probably a 10, 15-minute conversation once we're done this. So, just want to, before I forget that.
We're not going in yet.
No, we're not going yet. You all good?
No, we're going ahead.
We're going ahead.
Take one for orthodontist.
I forwarded out the document that DOE shared with us. I don't know how much you got the opportunity to review it. I did print off the last couple of pages for your reference. What this is in reference to is this is the model policies from DOE on ensuring privacy, dignity, and respect for all students and parents in Virginia's public schools. I.e., that's the Virginia's transgender model policies is what that is. As you know, back in 2021, they issued model policies as well. We had a conversation about that. These model policies take precedent over those now. These are what they're referring to as 2023 model policies. They would replace those policies. What's your
I read this from top to bottom, Terry, and I clearly, I don't know if Yonkin had any hand in it, but it seems to be much more conservative than I remember the previous one.
Correct.
In that, I think we were, as a board, we were challenged with some of the previous policy language. This one, in my mind, I don't know if the rest of the board members have read it, but I think it lines up much closer with what our community believes is the level of involvement that we should have in any of these types of activities.
For instance, schools can't, in the previous ones, there was minimal expectations that parents would be involved in the child's gender identity. This one said the school cannot purposefully conceal the information from the parents about their child's gender identity. Parents must be involved if the child seeks counseling, at school, etc. If the child, any record changes need to be made or requested to be made, that requires, under these new guidelines you have there, that requires official government record. Some
Correct.
sort of birth certificate, a passport, something like that. It's just not me coming in and saying, change this.
And I think this gives good guidance to our teachers on things like how they're addressed, the name that's used. I mean, this supports our staff and gives them some standing ground because, I mean, for instance,
School personnel can address a student with a name or pronoun that,
appears on the official record.
but a school personnel can address a child with a name or pronoun that conflicts with that student record if, and only if, the parent puts it in writing to the school. Just because a student asks, it's gotta be done in writing. Now, keep in mind, you've gotta, consider the teacher's constitutional rights as well. So the school cannot necessarily require teachers to address students in a way that violates their rights also. So that's, and as I shared with you, I should have started this previously, I can if you want, I've not had a conversation with our legal counsel about this.
I thought that somewhere here, so under D, identification of students, it says, personnel shall refer to each student using only the pronouns appropriate to the sex appearing in the student's official record. Male pronouns for students whose sex is male, female pronouns for students whose sex is female. Is there another item that says that in writing, just by writing alone, the parent can change that? I thought it actually said that even if they did it in writing, that it would only work if they actually had a document that said they had actually been altered by surgery. Right here, the bottom of page 14.
Page 14, number 4, but it says there also, it says notwithstanding provisions paragraph 2 and 3, personnel shall refer to a student by name other than one in the student's official record or by pronouns other than these appropriate to the sex appearing in the student's official record, only if an eligible student or student's parent has instructed. Now that's, again, that's got to be in writing by the parent.
So it says that even if they do that, it has to be memorialized in the official record. So to the same attention to.
That request is going to be put in the child's file. So,
Okay, but this is where I remember. It says, however, the legal name and sex of a student shall not be changed even upon the written instruction of a parent or eligible student.
yes, in order to change the school record, it has to be an official document.
Okay,
Birth certificate change, passport, that type of thing.
so they could ask for a different pronoun, but for the most part, our staff will be able to say it is, policy says,
if
Male to
you
male.
approve that, that's what they would be able to say. And each one of us should have a copy.
How do you, I don't think there's a way you change your official sex in Virginia.
Mm-mm. By surgery,
No, I don't know,
they're not recognized either.
I don't know how you change the birth certificate to men's sex. I mean, I'm just
It must
saying.
be somebody to talk about it.
Then here's the one for athletics that I thought was very appropriate. It's the last one, and they are very careful to only have one. For any athletic program or activity that is separated by sex, the appropriate participation of students shall be determined by sex rather than gender or gender identity.
And I'll caveat that with a but. You need to keep in mind, VHSL has already indicated that they're gonna continue to maintain its transgender appeal process. They've had a process in place for 7, 8 years,
But don't go on to about our localities.
so.
So are they're fighting to support?
Yes.
No, I thought I think they're somewhere in closer to our locality than they are I think, they're closer to us than they would be like.
Do they
NCAA.
want to allow boys to play girls sports, or are they fighting to?
They require like full.
I can't quote the whole VHSL transgender
It was
policy,
just a
but I
state
believe
law.
they have, the student parent has to show some proof that the child has done the transitioning surgery, hormone. Again,
Once you get approved, you stay.
and once you get
can't go back.
approved, you stay there, you do not go
But
back.
they haven't won that case yet.
Yeah,
That's
in place now.
VHSL has done that, that's the policy.
Well, they can't trump this if we adopt it, can they?
It's still a locality decision, correct?
I mean, if we adopt this, then boys play boys sports, girls play girls sports. That's what that last paragraph says.
To me, that come from the governors right there, that,
Right.
You can tell Youngkin, he put the power back in the parents' hands and got all that.
should be.
Yeah,
That's exactly
that's why he got voted in.
That's right.
One of the things his platform for parents to get power back of their kids was,
So it
I
should be.
think that's what got him in. Because even that northern part of the state, that splintered when he started doing that. That was huge. I mean, I've read through this and I feel better about it than the last time because we were having to really.
Well, we didn't approve the last one.
No, we had to find a way to put our foot down, and we knew there was some risk at that, but this, I don't think I see anything. Do you see anything in here, Jason, that you're concerned with?
I don't, it's just the thing that concerns me is, if we start we're gonna have to do this every daggone 4 years. Because, it's essentially what it's coming down, or every 2 every time the governor's office changes and DOE changes, as you get down to it. But, I mean, this is consistent, I support what's in here. The only thing I hope they're not the first ones to get sued over there's gonna be a mess in this because what the federal government's putting down and their guidance is contrary to this, and somebody's getting sued, but it is what it is.
And also it gives us the ability for local
So
localities.
what precedent was set with Graham versus Gloucester?
That was the one that said the students can use their bathroom where their identity is.
Yes, Graham versus Buckus, the federal appellate court ruled that transgender students must be allowed to use bathrooms that correspond with their gender identity.
But if this policy says that their gender identity is based on what's in their record,
No, it says students use the bathroom to show size of his or her sex, except to the extent the federal law requires otherwise.
And
which
what's federal law? And federal law is what I just quoted to you.
I mean, I'm comfortable with.
but the Graham says based on their identity.
their
But
gender.
where
All
this
they're
says
talking
that-
about is how they register for school. Then
Right,
the model policy is saying that they can request their pronoun and their name as long as it's in writing by their parent.
but they can't change their gender by writing.
They're not changing their gender, but how you identify them.
But Graham mentions gender, not identity.
Yeah. I mean, that,
Gender
Yeah.
is
essentially,
what's in our record would be that you're a boy. So Graham says you have to use the bathroom based on your gender. Our code, it
no,
doesn't.
it's the gender you identify with, not the sex you're born with. It's,
They don't acknowledge that with this
Graham,
policy.
Federal appellate court ruled that transgender students must be allowed to use bathrooms that correspond with their gender identity.
again, I'm not saying I agree with this, I'm just saying what federal law.
I'm just telling you what that's the federal court, that's the federal law. So what was read is correct. Students shall use bathrooms that correspond to his or her sex, except to the extent that federal law otherwise requires.
It's,
So
Single use.
use.
Single-use bathrooms should be made available, and parents can opt the child out of using bathrooms with transgender students.
So if we really wanted to do a solid, we would take item 4 and we would scratch, except to the extent that federal law requires. I'm just saying, if you wanted to make it tight, Giles County tight, we'd scratch that statement. But that probably puts us on the radar. Whether we scratch it or not, I don't know that we would be in any different place than we would be. If this board gets, personally, if we get pushed into a corner about this stuff, it's a hill I'll die for. I'll die. It's just,
Oh, me too.
that is fundamentally why we chose to raise our families here. At that point, that's why we get voted in these
I'm
positions.
always going in the bathroom with my dog.
So my plan is between not, I
I'll
don't know that we'll have it for next, we won't have it for Thursday, will we? If we have this on the agenda for Thursday. My goal is to have this on the agenda for you all to approve Thursday. As you have. Now, if you want to see it differently, then we need to know that so I can communicate with council.
take it like that.
So I plan.
I'd like to do what I said. I think that's a little.
I plan on presenting it giving it to you to ask you to approve the way it's written.
I agree with you on this. The only thing that scares me is having, when we got sued over the 10 Commandments, we wrote a check to an atheist organization so that they could go fight the next school system. And that's the only problem with it, is when you lose these cases in federal court. And you may not, but, if it's established precedent within the Fourth Circuit, I mean, we'll cross that bridge when it gets there, but that was my biggest heartburn about when you fight these folks. If you lose, you end up writing taxpayer money check to fund the fight in the next school system.
I got it. I understand.
But like I said, that probably will be the hill we die on if we have to.
But this is, whoever was the author of that swung us way back to a much more reasonable policy, so.
Well, I think ultimately, until the school systems are gonna do whatever the wings of their communities are gonna be, when these come out, until there's control of the legislature one way or another and funding's tied to these policies.
Yep.
That changes calculus a little bit.
What the deal with that?
Yep.
Somebody else for me.
So we need to go into close, do dates first or go into close?
Let me do dates real quick, if that's all right with you, that way we don't have to come back out. I've got a boatload of dates to go with you, to go over with you, just to remind you. As you may or may not know some of these. Next, Wednesday, August 9th, from 10 to 12:30 at Eastern Elementary Middle School, we will be doing some bus driver training there. You're more than welcome to come and see it if you want to. We're gonna do some safety drills and that sort of stuff as well, if you're interested.
What was that time again?
10 to 12:30.
With the sheriff's department.
That is, August 9th is also the first day back for our new teachers. 9 till 11 o'clock they will be here, and then they will be going to the schools in the afternoon. their respective school in the afternoon.
Do you traditionally have us
That's the
here to
next
greet
day.
them?
That's the next day.
That's the
Okay,
next day.
That's the next day.
okay.
As part, August 10th is our school board meeting, next Thursday at 7:30 in the morning.
Mhm.
We usually go from 7:30 to right about 9. We have the new teachers here, introduce you to them, and we'll get our new teacher orientation started at 9, right there shortly after. We also need to do a student re-enrollment hearing that day. So we need to do it after that in a closed session. So about 9:15-ish. Once we get you all, introduce you all to the new teachers, have a little snack, little break, we will go into the conference room back here and hold that re-enrollment hearing.
I have to leave here by 11 o'clock.
I would venture to guess that the re-enrollment hearing should be 30 minutes at most,
Okay,
maybe 45, but I can't imagine it'll be much longer than that. So I would think 10 o'clock, you should be out of here,
okay,
plenty of time.
works.
Again, you know this, August 14th, first day teachers, all teachers come back. August 15th, we are moving back to our opening school meeting. And it will be at Giles High School. That will be all staff at Giles High School.
What day was that?
That's Tuesday the 15th.
Okay.
What time?
It will start at, everybody should be getting there between 8:15 and 8:45, signing in, and at 8:45 we will start with my comments, and at 9 o'clock we have an individual doing a presentation.
And that's school system wide.
All employees in the school system. 9 to 11, that individual is going to do a presentation. That's Phil Chalmers. The topic of that conversation is going to be school safety. Following that, the rest of the day from 11:15 to that afternoon, we have set up several. Ms. Mustaine and Paula have worked diligently with others to set up training sessions throughout the day. Wide variety of training sessions. Phil Chalmers will continue doing training for the threat assessment teams that afternoon, but we have other trainings that staff have to go through normally. The glucose, the insulin, we'll have first aid AED, we have kindergarten teachers will be meeting to talk about really great reading. First and second grade teachers will be meeting to talk about really great reading. We'll have our ITRT to talk about our view boards, how to incorporate those, how to use those. Again, our IT networking to talk about logging into everything we have, the online textbooks, Canva, etc. So we've got 15, 16 different activities set up throughout the day. Some of them are 3 sessions, so that they repeat, so people have the opportunity to go to several different ones. Some of them, again, Phil Chalmers is all day. You're more than, again, I invite you if you want to be there, and lunch will be served from 12 to 1:15, I think.
That's all, Giles?
And that's all at Giles High School.
Have we done that before?
We have, we have not had a back-to-school meeting session probably, I want to say it's probably been 8 years.
That's a great idea. I love that.
We did have it. We used to do it alternating schools. We've had numerous different individuals come in and do the welcoming. We've had the governor that's been here my first year. We've had a comedian come in and do some different things, and so it's been a wide variety of different things.
That's great. No, that sounds fantastic. Is it mandatory, I assume?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Teachers will have an opportunity to sign up for the sessions that they want, but some of the admin, they're going to talk to their teachers on 14th and require them to do certain things.
That's a good, I mean, it's just a good start to make sure people think, know they, what they're, yeah, what they're supposed to,
AED training,
yeah.
Narcan training.
If not, you just kind of show up and hope you can find somebody that can help you out, so that's a good idea. And are we okay to be there if?
Yes. Yeah.
And more than one or two, what if there's more than two of us? Is that a problem?
Just Probably having a meeting, are you?
Historically, it's a community, I mean, it's an opening school meeting.
Okay.
You're,
As long as we don't come together and discuss.
I would say as long as three of you are not seen standing together, look like an open discussion with me or somebody else, no problem.
Okay, that sounds good.
And you're more than, again, lunch will be served, we're gonna have lunch from 12 to 1, if you have to be there for lunch, that's great. That's the 15th. August 16th, the next day, that's Wednesday, that we have open house at the elementary middle schools from 1 to 6. 8th grade orientation, Naris High School is 10 to 12, and Giles High School is 10 to 1. August 21st, our first day of school with kids.
When was the elementary orientation, 1 to 6?
1 to 6, August 16th.
In all elementary schools?
All elementary schools.
At the same time?
Same time.
Okay.
You're gonna be crazy.
We anticipate, unless you tell me differently, September 21st will be the September school board meeting. Is that right?
Is that a 4:30?
That I would request that we do that at 4:30. We would like to have, some students there to present to you, particularly about the, Apple, the coding camp that they did
Oh,
this
yeah, I
summer.
heard
Because
about
we
that.
had those
pretty
two
cool.
students that, moved out of the week camp representing Giles County for the, regional, so I guess regional, went down to Abingdon just this week, and they won,
Chris,
first place.
Cooper Balgus
So-
told me she loved it.
That was awesome. Now, they are going to be presenting at the state technology conference in Roanoke in December. That's a big conference because that's a 2-3 day conference where from throughout the state, individuals are coming in to hear about technology and initiatives and that sort of thing. So that's pretty awesome. Congratulations to those two students and thank the staff that was involved. That was Paula and Donna Ralph and Caitlin Thorne. There's two more. Tony Robinson and Ashley.
Hilton.
Thanks for them all for being there and doing that.
Did a great
I
job.
think they had
That was
a good time doing it.
Saw
and
his app.
That was
Yeah,
neat.
that was neat.
It was fun, he had a good time, he went, they got to go with, they were second place teams, they got to go down to Wise to see that, and they had a great time, and
pretty
like I
cool.
said, all those teachers really did a great job with it. and
Had a good time with it. And if I recall correctly, the first place Apple is going to work with them, and it is going to become an app.
Actual app.
Oh, man, that would be awesome.
So that's a neat thing. It's great. It was great to see the kids out there doing it. They were coding. They had coding the robot. They put the robot together, coded the robot to move and dance, and they had a good time.
Can we get them any royalties from that? That'd be awesome.
I know, but I can see Jack, he's so competitive, he's already thinking about his app for next year.
I don't know where he got that.
I won't be here
Got
the
that right.
21st, but that's okay. Be chasing elk.
You won't either?
What,
Oh, I thought you said.
what'd you say?
He said he's not gonna be here on the 21st. We need to talk about moving that.
The only thing, like I said, we've got I usually have a walkthrough about 5:30 where I go with the defense. We're playing the Mavericks. Lisa would like to keep it on 21st, so that. Actually, probably not, probably help.
You're going that whole week, aren't you?
I'm leaving the 19th, yeah.
Dude,
We could bump it a week if you wanted to 28, but I don't know if
I'll be here at 28th.
A long trip.
We need to bump it the week before if you're gonna
You
bump it.
The week before, you're gonna run into the same issue.
I cannot meet at 4:30 that day.
On the 14th?
Yeah, that's the day for the Giles game.
Yeah, you can, let's do it for.
I mean, I'm good on it.
He needs to stay on the 21st, he doesn't make.
The 18th, I could do the 18th at 4:30 if you leave the 19th.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Is it okay? Can we do it the 18th at 4:30? Monday's offense day, so I don't have to be there.
So, yeah, I mean, that Monday the 18th would work. If you want to do it on the 18th.
Works for me.
I have an open cap.
4:30,
18th, 4:30.
Y'all make it
So,
mess up my new calendar.
when do you, we can get you white, you want to get it white out?
No, I'm talking about
When-
this one.
When-
always write in pencil.
I know, I should.
When do you want to do, there's two other meetings. One, we need the work session, and two, the second one is, we weren't able to, I wasn't able to do our August meeting with the county, so I never had bothered you two with it. September 6th,
I've got that on the calendar.
September 6th, our monthly, get back in our monthly meeting schedule with the board of supervisors, two board of supervisors members, Chris and myself,
1 o'clock?
1 o'clock.
Yeah, I got that.
So, September 6th. And I'll verify that with Mr. McClarney, but if you put that tentatively, I'll make sure.
Yeah.
You can bring it, Lisa, you can bring that in here.
Okay, they said you could bring it in. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
He says it's like helping a woman be funny.
Now, the work session, I don't know what date you want to do the school board work session.
End of August.
Maintenance plan.
What's everybody got the last week of August?
You're looking at the 28th?
Yeah.
28th,
Mm-hmm.
What is this?
school board work session.
It doesn't have to be on the 28th, but it's like, the 30th, 29th, anybody got open that week?
I'd need it probably in the mornings and Wednesday.
30th to 31st?
31st works better for me.
Does me too. Does it work good for
Work
31st,
Session.
August 31st.
9 o'clock? 9 AM, August 31st for the work session.
This is starting to look like my basketball.
So that's moved up probably 2 weeks.
All right. Anything else before we go into close?
I think that's all the dates that I have. And I miss that.
I get a motion to go into close.
What we're going to close for?
Let's talk about student.
I'm moving to go into closed session pursuant to the Virginia Code, allowing that for us to talk about student discipline issues.
You did that, so I'm a second in that.
Yeah,
Yeah, he made the motion. Go.
second, got a motion and a second. All those in favor?